Okay. So X plus plus. I think once we first thing this coding language for Dynamics 365 is X plus plus. Okay. So that is my coding language. uh, it is nothing but if you know C++, it works. It's similar to C++. It is similar. No, I mean the same concept of object-oriented programming works, where you have the option of a parent-child combination. You can inherit, you can extension, all these things, and all these things you have already seen also, right? For data type also, like once you create a table, you have or create an EDT, you have this options of inheritance, parent-child relation, and these things, and these are the features of our object-oriented programming. So yeah, so again, if you see this part, this is just nothing but a simple overview. So I create my classes input code and I run as a startup object. So first thing is just we need to understand like how many basic type of classes are there. Okay, first one class, every class can be runnable class, but once you have a runnable class, this is one type, and I'll explain you what even runnable classes means. Okay, so these are mostly the three types. So runnable class is nothing but when we use it in jobs. So jobs are basically what for from our point of view, from developer point of view, you use jobs to just for our own testing and uh, own data checking and all these purposes. This is when you use jobs. I mean 90% of the cases, if we have written a piece of code and it is not working, we just simply go to create a job, we paste that code with some values and we test if it is running or not, because that runs on run that runs and shows the values from the runtime from the database. Okay, that is the purpose of job. Regular classes are nothing but when we want to create a process, it's a process, and we attach that to some to forms or tables, etc. Okay, so we have this regular classes means I have a class where I can just go and write my method, build my complex logic, but that we just need to attach to some process, and then only my logic will run. Because if I am not attaching to my some process, then it is not going to run. So I have created my regular class, and I need to have a connection with my forms and tables. So that is how it will be going to run. And any like report classes or our processor classes, if you see, you will see those as a regular classes. Batch classes, if you remember the concept of batch, so it is a like a periodic classes. Batches are nothing but periodic processes. So all these overnight processes, data cleaning, maybe data inserting from some process, creation of my customer vendors through integration, or my creation of the daily regular journals, projects and everything. All this comes from batches. So we have a periodic class which we run over runtime. So that has a separate class also. Okay, so separate form also. So that is a batch class. So we mostly create from the developer or regular I mean very from the start or from the beginning. If you're starting to learn, we generally concentrate on these two classes: runnable classes for our own testing and creating job, and small regular classes if we want to attach to forms and tables and batches. Okay, so these are the three important types of classes we need to know. Apart from that, so as I said, the coding language is X++. Okay, so it's similar to my any other language which is also following my object oriented programming methodology. Okay, so this is another thing, X++ coding language. Okay, and yeah, so compiler is right now, which is important thing to know, because this again comes in every interview questions, which is a .NET compiler. Okay, So this is important actually to know what is a .NET compiler and what was the previous language. So previously, in previous versions, I hope you maybe whoever is working, I think he must have seen those its previous version, but I'll not go much into it because it's not that relevant also, because just to spend time on the old version. If someone asks you to do a comparison is fine, otherwise if you're starting from D65, no one will ask you to, if you know the old version and how you have worked on. But just to give you an overview, previously we have it the development environment, or the framework was called Morphix environment. Okay, development, it's called Morphix previous version, and we had a X++ compiler there. And right now, as we are using all our coding in Visual Studio, the compiler is a .NET compiler, so it is much easier to use, much more faster, and processes are much. Another important observation or advantages in .NET compiler, we can write the code in any language, and we can just do the integration much smoother. Why I'm saying this, because like in Visual Studio you can go ahead, create a project, and you can start write your code in .NET, and you can build a small web service. And also at the same, if you have the Dynamics 365 enable, you can go ahead, create a Dynamics 365 process through your X++ code. And those two objects, if you have created a .NET web service and this X++ application, you can integrate those very smoothly. So that process is much more easier with the .NET compiler, and the best practices and everything is also much more defined. Previous versions also had those best practice engine, but right now it is more integrated to .NET compiler, and we will use it uh, much more efficiently now. Okay, so this is the important thing. Okay, so this is how a class looks like. I mean, just don't go and look into it, just create something and see. And I mean, this is a class, and these are my methods. Okay, so okay, these are what are my classes. Okay, under class, I will explain this. We have these methods. Methods are nothing but is a placeholder where we write our business logic. So class is nothing but an object of an object type where it is used to contain all our X++ business logic, and in the that's kind of a parent placeholder, and the methods are the child placeholders where you can define your each small processes into that class. So why you are using this concept of methods and everything, because if you have only one place of writing your code, and if you have huge processes or huge line of code, then you will have only one place where you have written maybe 20,000 lines of code, and which is not at all recommended. So you just break down all those processes to small methods. So that is the ideal process of doing, and whenever you require, you can just go and call a method, and those processes will be executed accordingly. Okay, so this is my classes and my methods. I think if you know SQL, so you have, maybe you know the term called SQL queries or SQL store procedures, right? Store procedures are nothing but kind of my batch classes where you go and run that on a periodic basis. You can attach, right? So it is more or less similar. If you have basic idea of SQL language, you know how to write a select query, insert or delete. That will definitely help you, and you will not face any difficulties in knowing this X++ language and writing the code part. Okay? But if you do not know, still you maybe have to spend some time, but it is easier to understand, and the logic and everything is very easy to write. Okay, so this is my classes and methods. If you do not know about that. Okay, yeah, .NET and X++ code, why the CIL is more important. So just yes, as I said, CIL can be operated from all my like .NET tools. It is efficient. Yeah, one more thing is, so it is actually easier to reference classes that I have other .NET assembly helpers. So what do I mean by that? Let's assume I have written a class from X++. Okay, and you have a .NET assembly. and you have built a web service on that. So what I can do, as I said, I can create and call that my web service through my X++ code through my Visual Studio. That is easy, but that assembly can be also brought called upon, and whatever the things you have in your assembly. Let's say you have some operations assigned in that assembly. If you can go ahead and use some of the DLL in that assembly, that can be easily used. Okay, that is another benefit of having this .NET CI. Okay, so if you do okay, so I think right now you know that .NET objects are generally stored as a DL object assembly DLL files. If you go and see your any other Visual Studio application, if you have worked on, if you know that those are my DLL files. So right now when you have this Visual Studio environment, so it is very easy to reference those DLL files into my coding into my classes rather. Okay, so as I said, easier to write application logic because and the CIL running time is much more faster because right now we when you do a compilation, it is building the application and the CIL is running and it is much more faster. If you have many methods, if you have a large complex class or a process going on, so your process improvement will be much more faster. So let me give you an example. So one of my previous client who were from a retail company. So they were actually manufacturing glasses. Okay, I think you have heard of that company, GKB Optical. So they were having a lot of operations going on in the X2012 process, and they wanted to move to Dynamics 365. So they did a check, right, how my process improvement and everything will be happening. So their major operation was to once they have the data across from all their retail stores, there was a major operation of create an OCI, which is an order come invoice, which is nothing but their business process was once you go and order an glass, you have to put your power, right, eye power, and then you have to decide which frame you are going to buy. Those things come as an order, and that order you can just go ahead and pay some money in advance, or you can pay in full also, right? So then only from that order they go ahead and create an invoice, and they had a separate they have a separate system actually to go and create those order for those classes with powers and also the frames. Okay, so that was running through a lot of complex operation through all the retail sources. Data were collected based on those sales data. They were creating those order come invoices, what we call an OCI, and that was a huge process going on. And they were using normal batch processes, and through load balancers they were using, and from X++. And as X++, the older version were not that efficient as the CIL, so it was taking time, and sometimes over the weekends or any if there is any sales are going on, so if the numbers of orders were huge, this process was crumbling. Okay, it was literally crumbling, and we used to see that it used to run on for maybe 8 hours. It used to run for 12, 14 hours, and that was a huge loss for their business because at the morning time when the process the users come and they start their work, they if they don't see the orders and everything, that's a huge problem for them because they do not know how many numbers of orders and how much we want to process. Okay, so they did a check and they understood that if they want to go to Dynamics 365, the whole process would take much lesser time because all the processes and everything are running through a batch process from .NET Shells, and that is an important advantage of using Dynamics 365 through the web version. Okay, because all my processes are running on cloud, and this is actually a big advantage what Microsoft actually projects as a when you want to upgrade. Okay. So similarly, if you are using any other application which is also from the web version, that is also being recommended. Let's say another ERP which is Navision Microsoft. So they are also having their web version now, which is Business Central. So all the clients are also moving to Business Central, most of them. Okay. Yeah, the compiler. If you want to just learn more on the compiler, I'll share you few documents. But yes, the base practice tool, as I said, it was previously also there, the base practice tool, but right now that has been implemented and we can add some user defined custom rules. So that is a new change actually from the base practice. So previously what was the base practice was, Microsoft has defined few base practices. So if you remember that I told you, like whenever you are creating any table EDT, you have to put your labels, right? You have, maybe you have to define your primary indexes in the table. These are best practices defined by Microsoft. Once you run the best practice engine, if those checks are not being met, it will throw a best practice error. That's not an error. Best practice, I would say best practice warning. So it will not stop your process, but to perform all the best practices, you need to follow all those rules. Right now, it allows the user-defined rules also. That is an, so maybe for from your development point of view, in your cases, some field which you have mandated, those values should be some values or labels or resources should be made, and that you can define in your custom rule. Okay, so this is the one of the important part which we have to learn about the compilers. Okay, okay. So yeah, I think we right now we is similarly, as I said, is if you see the .NET compiler language, it's similar to my Visual Studio when you run a coding in .NET and C++, Java, everything. So if you have the concept, so it is similarly to my any other coding language. Okay. Intelligence, yeah, I just need to show you that, then you will understand. So this is just nothing but, if you know SQL, it's like that. So if you have declared a variable, once you start typing it, Microsoft gives you this option of intelligence. So if you just go ahead and write a table name, it gives you an option. Okay, you just do not need to type the complete thing. After you typing 2 3 words, it automatically gives you option, you can select from that also. And let's say if you want to do create some values on that, or that also, right, then you can just go ahead and put that value, and it prompts you for the username method. So I'm just showing you that, but just to give you an understanding. So it actually helps us to maintain the consistency, as I said, so that whenever you're writing your language, your consistency and everything is mentioned. Because when you are writing, like it's an English, by English language, right? You are writing and everything, it's like in English, like from the keyboard point of view, I said, when you are writing a select statement, insert, delete, everything, so you have to specify which field, which table. If those intelligences are not coming up, and you have to specify a complete name of the field, maybe that is a bigger, either you have to go to the table, copy paste that, or you have to write on your own. So there are chances of spelling mistakes or wrong name of the element. So those errors are eradicated from intelligence. I think if you have used SQL or any .NET application, you will know that. I will show you that also. And yeah, so this is actually a kind of a predictive tool, which was previous versions were also there, the intelligence engine, but right now it is more defined. Okay, so let us see that. Okay, so what I can do, I can just quickly go ahead and create a new one. Okay, so if you see, I told you, right, these are my classes, like class, this is a class. Macros is a different thing. This is my runnable classes. Okay, so this is for what we call as a job. So I just go and run that as a startup object, and it simply it runs and shows me the value. So let us create a runnable class. Okay, so I think let us start with this one. So it's simply we just go and uh, just try to bring some data from this customer account, and we just want to see if those whatever we have seen in our database, it is showing exactly like that or not, right? So 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 this is my test job which you have created, correct? So let us first we just I wanted to show you about the intelligence, right? Is that okay? I think it's like that, but I thought I can do like that. Anyway, okay. So let us just start. So the first thing, if I want to tell you, if I have to do what do you want to do? I just need to go and this is my first. You need to know what is my table, right? This is a cast table, and I know the name of the table is also cast table. So from the cast table, I just need to bring out the name or any other. Let's say I just want to see the name of this customer from through my code, okay? And just a basic operation, name of this customer, okay? So I just first need to define my table. So once you start writing, system gives you of the options automatically. So let us say okay. So once you write this, see by default it gives you a green or blue type, right? So that means there is an actual object there, and this is a variable you have declared. So this is also, if you see this symbol, that means yeah, this is fine. There is a valid object which is there in my system. Okay. So right now I just want to just bring a simple select query and just try to bring this record. Okay. Uh, okay. So just write a select statement. Select start. This is a basic operation. Okay. Select start. Okay. And just do somebody just let me complete the writing. Why this is one second. Can you hear me? I think my audio got shut. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
And now we can hear you.
Okay, okay. Just what I just one second. What happened to my audio? One second. Let me check. Okay. Okay, see, this is the intelligence what I was saying. So once you start typing, based on whatever you have in the system, it gives you this option. Okay, select start from this C table because this is the only variable which it understand right now it has. So let's to give you a more understanding. So let's say if you define another table which is my uh, let's say that's the sales table. Okay, so let's. So again, this is also the intelligence. You start writing and it gives you the option of the objects. Okay, so you can just select the sales table and you go and just write a variable which is and right now if you want to just write the select statement, it's, and this gives you the option of both the options, sales and customer table. Okay, so this is the intelligence which I wanted to show you. So this is a very user friendly option and this was available for my old version also. So this is how you can use it for your own benefit. Okay, so it's right and just let me type that message. Okay, what is the info log through an info log, just let me type that message. I just need to mention something here, right? From that info log, what is the data that I am just going to bring, right? Now one, if I have written that, I just select and I just see. Once you save that, if there is an error, it gives you an error like this. So if you haven't created something correctly, let's see if you have missed this error, and by default it gives you, once you try to save this, if there is any error, it gives you an error because I haven't missed that option. So once you save that, you do a build. First, at the top, it shows no issues found, and this is the error. Yeah, this is some errors are coming up. Yeah. Okay, and also we have enabled. This is also I'm going to show you. Yes, see base practice errors. See, there are few base practice errors already coming, because this is an, see, this is, it shows us a that's not a right way to do it. Consider first only from the customer table. This is also another best practice. So why these are coming up is local variable stable is not used. This is a very refined compile method best practice engine what we have. If you just simply go ahead want to ignore this all these best practice, this is fine, but this message is coming up. And for some large development, if something is going on and if you see, okay, this best practice I do not need to consider now, I just need to complete my development uh, on small time, on let's say I have a very strict window, so I need to complete, then you might not look into this all these things, right? But these best practices are something coming up. Why these are coming? Because see, this was this was not used first of all, right? This sales table again, I have written a very basic code and which is a very wrong way of doing it, which is just select star from my customer table and system understand what, when you run this, see this C table, right? Consider using the first only keyword from selection. This additional data rows are unused here because it is saying that we have so many fields here in the customer table, and if I just only write star, it is not the right way of doing it, because I have in the customer table maybe 200 different columns, and if you only write star, it is bringing all the columns. But if you only select, but if you are actually using some values from the customer table, which is why it is mentioning that the ideal way of doing it, it should be using a select first only and then the field names and then your customer table. Okay, that is the right way of doing it. So these are my best practices and intelligence that I'm trying to show you. Okay, this forum again, if you just go ahead and just simply remove these four warnings, it is fine. You can go ahead and do that, but this is a process of how we go ahead and create use these best practices, and this is for our own learning also. Actually, this is, I mean, I would say we should always know what are the best practices, because that helps us to write the code in a better way. Okay, that is a good way of writing it. I can give you an example. I have seen many developers, so there are a few functions of creating data in the table, right? You can through code also you can insert record. So you have few commands in the system, which is my insert option, and where there is another option of not insert record is it's like an insert method. Let's say we have C table dot insert. See, this is a method. So if we just go ahead and insert, so it actually inserts a record. We're not doing anything here, but I'm just showing you there is a method of insert. And if you want to create some data and then you go ahead and do the insert, it inserts a record in my customer table, and you can go ahead and see that record in the front end. Okay, that is the first insert. Another way of creating that insert is, if you have simply, you go to your C table and we have another option, do insert. Okay, so do insert whenever you are running. This is not at all the Microsoft best practice or Microsoft suggests. So if because do insert is like a force insert. Okay, so it's like it will not check all any validations, anything. So if you in the insert method, if you have any validations for any customer table, some data needs to be based on the some parameters or something, it will check all those checks and validations, everything, which is a right way of doing it. But do insert is just you go and forcefully you put some values in your customer table without any validation, without any checks. So that is a wrong way of doing it, because those insert will check your validations, table validations, everything, but do insert will not check that. And sometimes if some developers, if they are seeing that there are some validations and I need to bypass those validations through some external logic or more logic, they go ahead and simply use a do insert. Okay, and that is not the right way of doing it. Okay, so I have seen, like in my existing project also, I have seen developers doing that. It's a easy way of, like a shortcut way, and which is a wrong way again. Just go and write it rules. So similarly, we have to delete and everything. Right? And just this is for example. Just take it as an example, which is a wrong way of doing it. Similarly, this is also a wrong way of writing your code, where you just go ahead and select a star, and by default Microsoft gives you these options of this best practices. In previous version, this best practice engine was not this refined. It used to throw the errors, but not this refined, that it actually helps you to write your code also, because it here, if you see, it gives you the option, okay, just go and write first only. Okay, which will refine the query process. Okay, all these options are not that refined, but right now it is very much refined, and it actually points out to each and every line of your code. Okay, okay.
Mitra, along with the warning, do the system also suggested that what will be the exact query for this for
Yes,
supporting this warning?
that is not there. So let's say I just write
Okay.
like here. Here, what I can do. I can simply select some field links, right? So customer table, let's see if you go to your customer table. Okay, I think it's taking some time to open up that table. Yeah, I think it's taking some time. Anyway, no, it doesn't actually gives you this option. Okay, that what code you need to write, because the select statement, in that select statement you can write anything. Select first on the from customer table, that's again first refined way of doing it. And select, say if you just select first only from customer, so start from customer table where you have this account. So after that, how many fields you will be needing, that the this best practice will not able to determine, because my way of writing a refined query is I mention each and every field in the query, whichever I am going to use it. Uh, by that I mean this customer table, the code which I am writing, it, as I said, it will contain all the field, but maybe I'll be needing 10 or 15 fields. So I need to mention all the name of the field or the columns, right? And after that I just write my query. This query will simply bring those record for those 10 to 15 different fields based on the account number or whatever condition you have set. Okay, so that is Microsoft doesn't suggest, so it just suggests you the best way of writing the code. Okay,
And do we need to also declare some namespaces also at the very start of the program? Because in
no,
this program, I haven't seen that you have used any namespace.
no, I haven't used any name. So no, the name is this one. So this is a class name, right? So this is a test job which the name which I have given, and one. So this is the kind of the class name. And once you are breaking down to classes different methods, so each method has to be given a different name. If you are saying
No, no,
that
not method, not name. It's namespace. Like in C++, we write na at the very beginning of the program, we write hash studio dot conio dot h or studio dot
oh,
h. Like this, we declare the package na.
no,
So do
that
we
is
need to declare some?
that is used for the calling that assembly, right? So that all
Yes,
those
yes.
the objects, yes, yeah, you can get the access of this assembly objects. But right now, no. By default, you if you see that whenever I start writing, it gives me the option of customer table, sales table. So whatever object base you have in your system, by default, you get this option from here. Okay, so you do not need to mention any assembly here. If you are creating, as I said, any .NET application, you are calling those assembly DLL file, that you need to mention along with this in your class. But by default you don't need to mention any assembly or any object. I think it's pretty clear that if you are creating any classes which in an extension of an big class or big batch job and everything, so that those need extension you can do, that we will see. But no specific assemblies is required. By default you get access of all your objects. Okay, so this is the idea.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so no assemblies is required for this. You get access of all objects. Okay, see, this is runnable class, right? And if you remember, I told you that we everything we have to do through our extension, everything, right? So this is a class which I created, and I just can go and write my own logic, and this will run, and it will show me all my logics and everything, right? But if you have to write something where I mean, you have to access some or create some operation on some existing classes or table, then you have to have that extension from that classes. By by that I mean, in this customer table, if you want to go and write some class or some logic into that customer table, so you have to create an extension. Or otherwise, if you just simply write your own class and want to access this customer sales table, then you just go ahead and create your own model and you can access that. So it will not ask you to create any extension for that. Okay, Okay, so we'll wrap up today, and tomorrow we'll discuss more on this. But before that, if are we all good with this PhD, then I can share the document tomorrow, and you can complete that connection. Is that fine with all of you, or you need some more time on having that PhD?
Need more time, Mitra.